The children were playing while Holston climbed to his death. He could hear them squealing as only happy children do. While they thundered about frantically above, Holston took his time, each step methodical and ponderous, as he wound his way around and around the spiral staircase, old boots ringing out on metal treads.
So how did you come to writing?
I got into writing through a love of reading. As a kid, I always had a novel in my hand and was one of those people who reads while they're walking down the street, bumping into stuff, and falling in love with stories made me want to create stories of my own.
And more specifically, how did the story of Wool come to your mind?
Wool started with the idea of people who can only know the world through a single screen. I have people living underground and they have this one wall screen. And to me, it's very much like the news programs that we see or the internet or newspapers. We only have this one avenue of knowing the world, and it's often nothing but bad news. And so the story is about what this does to our sense of humanity, our hope, our desire to travel, if all we're told is that the world outside is a horrible place.
Why did you choose self-publishing, if you chose it?
Well, my first novel came from a small press, and I enjoyed the process, but I saw that the tools for producing the books were available to anyone. And I didn't have high aspirations with my writing. I just wanted to make my stories available. So with my second book, I turned down a contract and decided to do it on my own and have control of the entire process, the cover, the way the book is laid out, and just saw it as a free artistic expression.
Wool started as a short story, Holston, and then it grew into a 5-part omnibus that soon generated a massive response. Did you have in mind the overall plot when you're starting writing, or is it something that came as you were going?
Yeah, when I wrote the first part of Wool, which is just a 40 or 50 page story, I didn't have the whole plot in mind. That was the entire story I wanted to tell. And it wasn't until the reader response, all the reviews and the emails that I got saying, this is brilliant, but where's the rest of it? It's too short. And I thought, well, I'll write some more. So it was when I started writing Wool 2 that I came up with the plot of the entire series. And I thought, well, people liked it a little bit at a time, so I will release it that way.
Wool features a strong female character, Juliet, which is in itself quite unusual in science fiction, and readers feel a great bond to her. What was the inspiration for this character?
Yeah, I love exploring the non-traditional characters. I feel like we have enough masculine heroes, and I grew up being raised by a single mom who worked 3 jobs to take care of us, and I have a sister that I very much admire and respect, and my wife is a very confident and capable woman. So these are the heroes that I've had in my life, and it makes sense to me when I write to write what I know. And I've always thought that women were the stronger and more creative and more resilient of the two sexes. So when I needed a hero, I drew from that.
Why did you choose science fiction? And what would you say your main influences are in that field and more generally in fiction?
The reason I enjoy writing in science fiction is it gives us an ability to send a postcard back from the future, maybe to tell us about the world we live in today, maybe to warn us about where our actions could take us. In the case of Wool or Silo, it's a dystopian tale. It's in the vein of 1984 and Brave New World, and these are the best stories to comment on not only what's going on today, but where those actions can take us. So for things that have inspired me, I would look back to Aldous Huxley and the great dystopian classics, not just 1984 and Brave New World, but Gulliver's Travels and all these great political satires. You're entertained by them, and at the same time they have something to teach us.
Dystopias often say, if not always, say something about the societies in which they were written. It's also the case with wool, and in what way, do you think?
When I wrote the first wool story, this was during the summer that the Arab Spring was taking place, and it was during the summer that we had the occupation of Wall Street going on, and there was a sense of rising injustice. What's been fascinating is some of the things that I made up in the story have been true. There's a lot about information and being power, and the way the government wants to know everything that you're doing and lock people down. And so when Snowden and WikiLeaks and the NSA project come out, I get emails from people saying, like, how did you know this stuff? But I think some of these fears are just general, and that's, I think, why this book has had such universal and wide appeal all over the world. These are all things that we're struggling with in our countries.
When did you realize that wool was becoming a real phenomenon, and how has it affected your life?
It didn't occur to me all at once that wool was becoming a phenomenon. It's been all these stages of realizing something unusual was happening. So it's the first month that I sold more copies than I had sold in my lifetime. Prior to that, it was when I realized I was making more with my writing than I was at my day job. When I heard from Hollywood producers and literary agents and publishers, each of these was a small step that would make me look at my wife and say, what is going on here? We'd still do that to this day. I go on a European tour and meet readers who are reading my story in other languages, and that's another step in this journey. I feel like I've been a tourist in this whole thing, and every part of it's just amazed me.
There's an ongoing debate in the US and probably in Europe too about self-publishing and traditional publishing. And I saw several times on your website that you had you talk about putting the interest of the reader first. Can you say something about that?
Yeah, I think this is something that everyone in all artistic endeavors should keep in mind, like who the end consumer is. And I think when you work day to day, I was a bookseller for many years, and my customer was the reader, and so they would come in looking for the next great work. And I think when I started writing, I didn't lose that connection. I still thought of myself as a storyteller and as a bookseller. And so the readers always had primacy for me. And I think it's completely natural for publishers to just, you make the best book you can and you want to get it into bookstores, and then you're working on the next book and you want to get it into bookstores. And it's easy to let that be a buffer between you and the reader. And it's hard. Authors have not had a great ability to connect with readers. It required going on book tours. Well, the internet these days with Twitter and Facebook and blogs, now we can have personal relationships. And so it's something I value, and what's been great, even working with publishers now, they still want us to use those same tools and have a relationship with our readers. And I think everyone understands how important that is.
Thank you very much.